Isn't it sad, and I'm sure you guys see it all the time in your business, how many people put a timeline on success? When was the last time somebody put a timeline on being broke? You talk to a guy in his 40s, obviously not happy, obviously wants to level up, obviously not making enough money. He will okay, I'm going to give him all my effort for 3 months.
Yep.
And if it doesn't work, it's like, dude, you've invested 40 years into being broke, and that's cool. No timeline there. It's an indefinite, all-in, 80 hours a week effort.
Real business owner.
Whatever your situation is currently is not your forever situation.
That's really what real business owners is, man. We don't care where you come from, where are you going?
Our goal and our job is to reduce the mistakes that you have to make or the money that you have to lose.
You want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be successful, don't give up.
You learn, adjust, and continue to move forward.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Business Owners Podcast. And you guys, just as a value add, first of all, I want to start off with this. We created a text hotline just to add value to you guys as listeners. Write this down. It's 435-515-3577. Just to be a resource for you guys. We know as business owners, a lot of times people have questions. As you guys know, we own Easier Accounting. So if you guys have questions to do anything to do with your taxes, shoot us a text. We're quick to respond. If you need an appointment, you need to dive deep into something, we're here for you. Or even if it's just a quick question, it's no obligation at all. Shoot us a text. We just want to add value to you. But you guys, today we have a really exciting episode. As always, you got myself, Kale Goodman, and you've got Trevor Cowley.
Yeah, buddy. I'm excited for today.
Yeah, me too.
Certain.
We've got literally a legend in the real estate game. His name's Peter Vekselman. And I said that right? I've been saying that the whole time. Okay, cool. We've had some great calls. We got connected recently. And I can't wait to jump into your story, Peter, and learn a little bit more about your entire journey. And I know we can't cover it all today, but I know we usually like to go back. But I was so impressed with your structure of your partner driven that I do want to talk a little bit about that right up front at the beginning of the show, because I thought it was so cool. There's so many coaches and mentors and different programs in real estate. And as we know, some of them can be bogus. You know what I mean? And then there's some great ones, but Peter's structure is super cool. And so I wanted him to kind of touch on that right up front. And then obviously we'll go back a little bit about how you got to where you're at today.
Well,
so
it just makes it, at any time that somebody's in, the same industry or the same game as a lot of people, you have to do something just a little bit different to stand out. And when Kel told me some of the stuff that you're doing, I'm like, oh man, that's really cool. That's unique and that's different. He's an individual that puts his money where his mouth is, right? And backs up what he says he's doing. And so that's what's unique about Peter is anyway, I'm going to let you talk about it because this is your business and your baby, but I was super impressed about it when Kel shared that with me.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just say this. I've never met cool accountants before.
Well, just to be clear, we're not accountants. We hire the accountants.
Okay, I got it. I
was going to say, I don't mean to disappoint you. So,
never met anyone cool in the accounting industry.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. We'll take that one.
First of all, I appreciate you guys having me here. I really do. But, even if you look at something like an accounting world, right, and let's say you guys had 100 clients, and let's say 95 of those clients didn't have their taxes done right. You guys wouldn't be in business.
Right.
Let's say you went to a hospital, and out of 100 patients, 95 died. That hospital would be out of business. You went to a grocery store, 100 people walk in, and, only 5 make it out alive. That store wouldn't be around. But the sad reality is that's the industry I'm in. It's got about a 3 to 5% success rate. Wow. And nobody talks about it. I'm sure you've had real estate guys on here. Nobody would start out by saying, I'm in an industry that probably has, imagine Elon Musk launching rockets and 95% of his people die. Who would go on those rockets? Exactly. But that is the reality of the industry I'm in. Again, it's one of those things that nobody talks about. We accept it.
It's an ugly truth,
I guess. It's an ugly truth, and we just kind of roll with it. To a certain degree, the gurus of the industry I'm in kind of say, well, hey, I do what I'm supposed to do. I know this business. I teach everything. They don't want it bad enough. They don't work hard enough.
You know what my first thought is when you say that is as long as you have the right ingredients and the right tools, the majority of people are going to quit and give up, right? Because only 3 to 5%. So yes, it could be a scary statistic for a lot of people. For me, that's somewhat exciting because it looks as though that most of the competition won't outlast what they need to outlast in order to see the success in that industry or in that game, right?
And that is very true. But the reality of it, if you just look at it from a competition, it's still full of people. I mean, think about this. Everybody in the U.S. wants to do two things. They either want to make it in the stock market or they want to make it in real estate. And, and you hear this all the time. True. People talk about like all the money's made in real estate. Well, there's a lot of money made in real estate by few people.
Right.
Really, that's the reality of the situation. And so, you brought up partner driven. What I do, we solved that problem. As far as I know, we're the only company out there that solves, only real estate investment company that solves this problem of this abysmal success rate. And here's the problem with our industry. Here's why it exists, that we have such a low success rate. It's a very unorganized industry.
Yeah.
It is very unregulated industry, and it is a very dislocated industry. And so what happens is this: you have to piecemeal it. Just imagine if I had to get my taxes done, and I went to you guys to get my ledgers. I went to this other accounting firm to put the numbers together. I went to this other accounting firm to get my P&L, but that's all they do. I have to go somewhere else to get a balance sheet.
Plan, and over here for this.
It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
It just wouldn't work. It's like having an assembly line of cars, but the assembly line does not happen to be in the same building. Doesn't work. But that's exactly what happens in our investment industry.
Right.
So what happens to an average investor when they want to become successful in this business? Here's what happens. Number one, the first thing is, just like in any industry, you have to know what you're doing, right? So they go to the gurus of the world, right? And I'm sure you guys have had some of them on, and they get their training. And by the way, there's some incredible training, incredible information out there. And then they start going out there and they get into the implementation mode. So what happens when you get an implementation mode? You start realizing, okay, this is what they taught me. So I gotta find a deal, right?
Yeah.
So if I find a deal, I got to do some marketing. Well, let me do this. Let me just Google of some marketing things that I could do. And there's
endless
Google
pages of real estate on how-tos, right?
Thousands of ways to generate leads, of finding deals. So, I as an investor look at one and I'm like, okay, I can afford it. Seems pretty good. This will give me some leads. Okay, boom, boom, boom. I got that. Then these leads start coming in. I'm realizing, I'm an engineer. I've never really talked. I've never negotiated. But now I'm talking to these people. It's kind of a cold conversation. Let me figure out how to
There's an art form to it.
There's an art form. So let me figure out how to negotiate. Let me figure out how to talk to these sellers. And then
what are the right questions to ask?
Well, the right questions to ask. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, now I'm starting to get some stuff coming in. How do I know if it's the right stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's 1,000 apps out there. Let me go figure out which app to get to pull information and how I can get, let's get this app. And then let's say I get that far and I'm realizing, oh my goodness, I got to I'm putting this deal together. I got to close this deal. Okay, let me find somebody that could close this thing for me. So I'll get another random contact, another random connection.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, gosh, it's a $200,000 house. I need them. Well, obviously, everybody, I learned from the guru. All I have to do is just Google hard money lender. So I Google my local hard money lender. And before you know it, he's going to make more money than I will on this deal. I'm going to put all the effort in. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm going to get the wrong terms, the wrong rate, everything. And then I get into the abysmal part of this business called rehab, right? Yeah. This is where all guys like me lose our money. This is what made me homeless, by the way, 22 years ago. And so I hire a local contractor. As he's talking to me, he sees the word newbie idiot on me. And so he's gonna play me.
He's milking you.
He's gonna milk me. He knows how to play me. He knows how to give the wrong bid to me. He knows how to underprice everything. And so,
or tell you, this problem happened, it's now going to be X halfway through it.
There's 30,000 ways of playing newbies. Yep. So he's going to play me. And then finally, I'm going to get to the end of this whole thing. And I'm like, I just got to get out. And so I'm going to hire the wrong realtor, of course,
right,
because he's going to tell me how much he could sell it for. And he's not going to tell me what the reality is. And when I'm done, as long as I'm still standing, I'm just glad I'm out of this business. And that's what happens to an average real estate investor. Bottom line is you can't piecemeal.
Right.
It's like going to any large city and saying, okay, let's put together a Rolls Royce, but how we're going to do this is we're going to go to all the junkyards in the city. We're going to get all the pieces of cars and put together a Rolls Royce. It's not going to work. But that is exactly what happens to an average real estate investor. You cannot piecemeal it because not only I just hit the major parts. There's 20 other parts to the business. The problem is within each one of these parts, let's say you take the marketing part, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's 1,000 marketing things. How do I know which one is the right one, which one's the wrong one? So I'm probably going to make a wrong decision. So bottom line is it just doesn't work. And that's what we solved at Partner Driven.
Yeah.
At Partner Driven, we bring everything under one roof. We make it a seamless transaction. So at Partner Driven, when people partner with me and do real estate deals, and we've done thousands of them, everything is under one roof. So we're going to coach you and train you. We're going to spend money right where you live in Utah, and we're going to actually generate leads for you because we know the kind of opportunities work, what kind of marketing works, and we're going to generate the right opportunities for you. We're going to give you the right technology because you got to make decisions. We have the latest and the greatest technology. We know it works. We're going to give it to you. Our back office is going to be your back office. Means we're going to do the contracts for you. We're going to do inspections for
you.
The title. We're going to coordinate buyers, sellers, all of that. Our construction outfit is going to help you fix that property. Our team of realtors is going to help you sell it. And when we're done, we're going to split the profits 50-50.
Yeah.
And so here's the magic question. Well, Pete, how do I know that your roof is the right roof? I'm going to do one thing no one else is going to do. I'm going to give you the money to do the deals.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to back you financially. So when we partner, you don't have to spend $1 on deals.
Jeez.
I'm going to put it all up. So how do you know that our roof is the right roof? I'm going to put my money where
I'm going to
my
take the
mouth is.
risk with you. You know what I mean? There's like so many
By the way, I
things.
ain't I'm assuming all the risk.
Exactly.
If something goes wrong,
Yeah.
it's on me. And by the way, after 3,600 deals of doing this, every once in a while things still go wrong. Last year there was a deal that went wrong. We lost $110,000.
Yeah.
I stroked the check at the end of the deal for $110,000.
Yeah.
So not only do my partners get all the upside, we eliminate all the downside.
Yeah. You're obviously creating a ton of people out there that are just like hunting the right deals because you've given them that knowledge, but then you're like, hey, let's do business together. I think it's brilliant. But I do notice that, take all like, for example, these done for you Amazon stores or things like that. Not that they're all bad, but I always ask these questions to these guys when they hit me up. I'm like, well, then why don't you just create a bunch more stores? You know what I mean? They're like, well, they have all these things. And it's like, that's kind of how you identify if it's like kind of a scam, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, we just want you to take all the risk. And if it works, then cool, we're going to share the profit. But you're the one that's out. Yeah, you're actually taking majority of the risk with your people, plus training them. Plus, anyway, I just thought that was brilliant.
Well, but let's go ahead and ask me that question.
Yeah.
Because that is a reality.
Right.
Why would we not just do it all ourselves? One very basic reason. Real estate is a local business.
Yeah.
In order to really, really dominate in the market, you need to have boots on the ground. You need to have presence.
Yeah.
So bottom line is this, it's not a one-way street. I need my partners. My partners become the boots on the ground.
Right.
My partners give us the bird's eye view.
Yeah.
Our partners, give us the ability
Well, you
to have
get to do
market
tons
presence.
more deals, and they win and you win, right? Because you've got
right.
how many eyes and ears out there in the world
That's exactly
seeking
right.
good deals.
Yeah.
So all they've got to do is find the deal, bring it to you.
Yeah.
You can analyze the deal and say, that's a terrible deal. You don't want to be in that deal. See you later. Bring back something else. Or that's an amazing deal. Let's partner.
Yeah,
on
that's
it,
kind of
right?
what I was trying to say is like, you're creating really a big win-win situation.
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of times these programs out there are like, well, if we win, we both win. But if we lose, you lose. You know what I mean?
exactly.
So-
And with us, it's
Quite
opposite.
opposite.
If we lose,
yeah.
I lose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
right. And so when Kel was telling me about all this cool stuff, I'm like, that sounds awesome. I wonder what the process looked like to get to that, right? Because you have to have made money in order to be able to do that, right? And partner with people and be the money side of the game and being able to facilitate all those things. That's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of struggle, a lot of money to be able to make sure that these individuals can go to one place and get everything done. I like to peel back the curtain or, look under the hood, so to speak, however you want to put it.
The story.
And talk about the kind of the come up
Sure.
in terms of, because I would say at least half of our listeners are probably the, maybe 1 to 5 year mark in business. And they may be facing just a rough patch right now, which I'm sure you've faced many times. You just alluded to, hey, 22 years ago, I was homeless for a second, right? So I want to highlight some of the processes or some of the things that you had to go through that might have been, in the average eye considered negative, but was an amazing learning opportunity for you and might have been the foundation that turned your life around. And that low point was the trajectory of the success, really, right?
Sure.
And so what did some of the, when you first started getting into business, what were some of the first businesses that you started playing around with when you decided I'm going to be an entrepreneur?
That's a lot of questions in there.
I can add a few more if you like. I mean, I'm really good at question asking.
Well, I will tell you what your first question is: what took to get here at 15 years to get to this model?
Yeah.
15 years of being my own investor. To do that. That's really what the crescendo was, and we can go through that whole story. What got me to be an entrepreneur even before I got into real estate was actually a little bit of a funny story. I wasn't smart enough to get a job. I mean, literally, the funny thing is when I graduated from college, if you go to Miami University the year I graduated, I'm sure you've had extremely smart people, intelligent people on this podcast. I may be the dumbest person you ever hear, because if you go to the year I graduated, I was the very bottom. I was at the very bottom of my class, and I couldn't even get an interview. Literally, when I graduated from college, nobody even wanted to talk to me about getting a job. And so I've never seen a W-2. I've never gotten a paycheck my whole life.
Wow.
I became an entrepreneur right away.
Wow.
And I did various things totally unrelated to the real estate industry. I was in a vending business. I was in network marketing. But my big hit as an entrepreneur actually came through merchant services business, believe it or not, credit card industry. I met a very successful money guy. One of my best friends and I were already doing some things. And before you know it, 3 years later, we had set up 15 states, 15 franchises across 15 states. And we were rocking it out. But that's when I learned, I know a lot of business people listen to this thing. I learned a very important principle of success. This is before I even got in the real estate business, is that if you really want to be successful at something, you got to be a subject matter expert at it.
Right.
And in that industry, I didn't know what I was doing. I was an absolutely fake in there. The only reason I was in there was because I happened to know the money guy, and my best friend was in it. And 3 years into it, 15 franchises later, and a lot of money that was made in the middle, I realized I was an imposter. I wasn't a subject matter expert. Every day when I went to work, I was faking it. Yeah. And I realized you can never be happy doing that, and you can never be truly successful doing that. So I got out of that business. I sold my shares, got out of that business, just trying to figure out what to do with my life.
How old were you around that time?
This is about 25 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I was, I don't even know how to subtract. But whatever 54 minus 25 is. But so I got out of that business, and just totally by happenstance, one day somebody gave me a book called Deals on Wheels. And anybody who's ever done mobile homes knows that book. It's like the Bible of the mobile home business by Lonnie Scruggs. I read that book. I did another thing that ultimately got me to be successful. I called author. And that was the first time I understood the concept of, if you're going to do something, you better find somebody that's really successful. So I called Lonnie, and he said, hey, I got a seminar this weekend. I went to a seminar, came back from his seminar, and that first week bought my first mobile home. And 3 years later, we had the largest mobile home dealerships in Georgia, which maybe for Utah doesn't say a lot, but for Georgia, which is like the mobile home capital of the world, that does say a lot. Yeah. We went from 0 to hero in 3 years. We were flipping almost 100 mobile homes a month.
Wow.
And another thing for your audience, that's when I learned another very successful business principle, and that is this: how do you become successful? So many of us, when we want to become successful, we do it the traditional way. It's what everybody teaches us, right? How do you become successful? Well, you work harder. You have to outsmart your competition. You have to show up early. You have to stay late. You have to get good grades and all this and that. And the reality is that is not how you become successful in life, because there's only very little room at the top. And what I learned through that industry is how you become successful is you create your own playing field. Right. You don't compete where everybody else competes. Yeah. And Jeff and I, that was my business partner, Jeff and I created our own playing field back then of how we were flipping our mobile homes. Nobody else was doing it, even though Georgia had millions of mobile homes.
Everybody was targeting Georgia, but you were doing it a little differently.
We created our own playing field. So we did it for 3 years, and then literally overnight, the industry shut down. The back-end financing fell out. All the banks that were in the business got out. B of A, Greenpoint, Greencham, HFC.
Was that due to like a 2008 thing?
No, that was before.
That just
they just got
decided
out.
to diversify their
portfolio
and not invest into that?
They were making bad loans.
Oh.
They were just making bad loans, and they just got out. They just realized mobile home industry, and they've never really come back to this day.
Yeah.
And so the industry collapsed, and so I was trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do with my life? And I got into the the next obvious thing called real estate. And back then, mobile homes, real estate, to me, I thought it was the exact same thing, and it was a big mistake.
I would assume that as well.
Well, I did too. I lived that assumption. I thought, well, I mastered the mobile home business, so I'm going to get into real estate. We went to 2 seminars. We're like, we just need a little fine tuning. And that little fine tuning got me to the point that I bought 6 houses within the first 2 months of being in his business. And 6 months later, I had lost every single thing I owned in life, like literally every single thing. And 2 months afterwards, which is 8 months after I started, I was basically living out of the backseat of my car.
Wow.
And you say you learn a lot. I disagree with that. People always say you learn so much when you fail. I don't buy into that principle, because you learn when you succeed. When you're failing, the only thing you're learning is what not to do. Okay. But let me tell you what those 8 months of disaster did for me to this day. It got me tough as nails. It got me tough. I didn't learn. I learned what not to do. I made all the mistakes in the world. I trusted the wrong people. I abused the real estate business. I literally abused it. But what I did is I got really, really tough.
Yeah.
I got really, really tough. And right around the 8-month marker, ultimately, that was the point where the most successful principle in my life happened. I told you when I got in the mobile home business, I called a guy named Lonnie Scruggs because of the book I met, and that was my kind of philosophy, kind of like, But I didn't understand. It just made sense to me, but I didn't live the principle. 8 months after living out of the back of my car, I learned the most important principle to this day of what got to me successful, and that is the principle of alignment.
Yeah.
Because 8 months into being a total loser in this business, a total disappointment to myself and everyone around me, I finally came to terms that I didn't know what I was doing. That I was arrogant about this business because I had some successes in other businesses. I was pompous about it. But I somehow scraped some money together, and I brought in my first mentor. His name was Barton. And from that day, 8 months into the business, living out of the backseat of my car, being $750,000 in debt, $500,000 of my own cash that I lost, and $250,000 of Mr. and Mrs. Visa and Mr. MasterCards. So I was $750,000 in debt, totally broke, and not just broke financially, but broke in every way you could be broke, mentally, emotionally. I brought on Barton. And 3 years from that day, one day I opened up my checking account and there was $1 million in there.
Wow.
And I give it all to the fact that I understood. I learned the principle of alignment. I aligned myself with someone more successful.
I was thinking that the whole time you were talking, and we've talked about that a lot on our show. It's like, man, you can focus on your competition or you can just create alliances all over the place. Like, the author of the book, what did you say his name? Lee Scruggs? Lonnie Scruggs, like he didn't have to write a book, and he didn't have to, he could have just focused on his business and tried to wipe out competition. But he's like, hey, I'm going to put information out in the world. I'm going to align myself with people. You happen to be one of those people, but that's what you're doing right now too. Like, you're out there creating alliances with all these people, hundreds of people, and just winning together. And I really feel like that's where a lot of people do mess up, is they're like so focused on what's my competition doing, or what can I get the edge on them, instead of like, hey, how can we win together,
Well, the reality is, I tell people there's 2 phases of being successful. One phase, you do have to do that.
You got to
go
through
beginning,
it.
you got to go through it. You got to be you got to put the work in. You got to put the effort in. You got to be the one man show. You got to this. That's phase 1, and unfortunately, most people never get past that. Yeah. So even when they do become successful, and I'm sure you guys see these all the time, people that make a lot of money, but what they have is just high-paying jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
But then there's that phase 2. Phase 2 is when you got to get out of that mode. And I've been out of that mode for years now. For instance, if you were to stop me in the street, what do you do, Pete? Well, I'm a real estate investor. When was the last time you saw a deal you did? About 7 years ago. Yeah. So phase 2 of being successful is getting out of the day-to-day grind.
Right.
Is getting out of the day grind, developing a team, developing infrastructure around you.
Yeah.
And the phase I'm in right now is exactly that phase. I'm in the phase of meeting guys like you. I'm in a phase of aligning myself with the right kind of people. Because the growth of everything I've done in real estate has always come not because I was so smart, not because I came up with some incredible technique and strategy. It's because I aligned myself with the right people. Yeah. And so that's all I do now. That's all. When I'm done here, I'm going to go speak in front of people.
Yeah, it's not only that, but you have aligned yourself with certain principles that you live by as well. And one of those principles is probably alignment with the right people, right? And so what are some of the daily habits that you have that would throw you off if you don't do them? Because everybody's habits are just a little bit different.
Sure.
Put them in a mode to run off and be successful.
Sure.
You have your ingredients or your habits. What are those?
Well, I'm always careful when I answer that question, because the principle that I believe in, and I'm going to answer that question, but the principle I believe in is that you have to learn what your lane of life is.
Right.
So for instance, and I'll go through a couple of habits I have, and sometimes people listen to that like, well, I ain't going to do that. Or, well, that's not me.
Yeah.
Or I've done that, doesn't help me. So the one thing I always caution people is that you got to figure out what makes you tick. Yep. It's like, we're talking about running, right? Yep. I stay in shape. You stay in shape. We work out. I'm not a runner. Yeah. But my lane of being in shape is something very different, and it works for me. And I don't even know if I could run 38 miles and without passing out and dying. But my lane for me, my biohacking, my staying in shape works for me. So the one thing I tell people when it comes to principles of success, habits of success, there are some general ones, but you got to figure out what makes you tick.
Yep.
So for instance, for me, what makes me tick, I'm about a 4 a.m. guy. Okay. So what makes me tick is this. We all have 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
And so this is one thing I learned. So how do I gain an advantage on my competition? We all have 24 hours a day. And so many years ago, I said, what if I just wake up 1 hour earlier? What if I wake up 1 hour? And people say, well, gosh, what does that 1 hour do for you? You're right. 1 day, 1 hour, nothing. But if I wake up 1 hour earlier for 365 days a year, right, that gives me an advantage of 365 hours over my competition. If you're running a 38-mile race and you started 365 minutes ahead of me, you're going to win that. I don't care, even if you're not a good runner.
Yeah.
So then I realized now obviously you have to spend the time right.
Right.
So years ago, I realized if I just get up an hour earlier than most people and I work towards my success, how I define my success, I'm going to get an advantage. Well, I've gotten to the point now I wake up probably an average 3 to 4 hours earlier. Yeah. So what kind of an advantage do I have over my competition? Huge. So one of my huge principles of success, get up earlier.
Yeah.
Now that could also be taken the other way. I've shared this principle with people, and I've had people come up to me afterwards and say, well, Pete, I like to stay up late. Great. If that works for you, stay up late. But the key is invest that time productively. Invest that time productively. Here's another thing. This next one I do believe is across the board for everybody. I believe that people that are successful most of the time tend to be successful across the board. What I mean by that, it's not like, if you analyze someone's successful life, you would say, well, he's a loser here, he's a loser here, he's a loser here. But here, look at this, he's made billions.
They have a standard, and it goes across
the board.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't, he beats his wife, he doesn't know his kids, he steals this, he's a miserable this.
And he's a billionaire.
That's called a criminal, right? Yeah. People catch those people. Pretty much when you study successful people, or at least the successful people I've studied, they're pretty, they might not be knocking it out of the ballpark across the board, but they're pretty successful in most facets of their life.
But I will tell you that if they're not doing it across the board, I guarantee you there's thoughts stirring in their mind on what they could be doing to, patch some of those holes in some of those areas, because that's all successful people do. It's audit self in all aspects of life and saying, how can I improve? Even if it's an area that does look good or better than the average, they are still tweaking, changing, adjusting, and figuring out how to get the advantage, right?
I totally
Just
agree.
like it was 1 hour, that 1 hour turned into another 1 hour, then turned into another 1 hour. Now it's 3 or 4 hours earlier. You're always seeking better because you demand it, because it's part of your standard and it's just the way that you operate.
I buy into that.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
So if you extend that, so the next obvious question is, what should I be better at?
Right.
What, I got 20, should I be better at, drinking water? Yeah. Should I be better at technical things? I think there's some huge pillars. Like, for instance, most successful people I know, and we've been talking about this since I got here this morning, tend to stay in shape. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're going to find people that are uber successful that you want to emulate, but when you look at them, you're like, oh, this. So they're
300-400 pounds or
that's
whatever.
Exactly right.
And this is like they're letting that go, but in exchange for
That's
what?
exactly right.
You know?
So I think the big pillars are this. Obviously, we're talking about business success.
Yeah.
I think success on a health side, that's a big principle.
Right.
I think success on a relationship side, that's a big principle. Yeah. So so the other big principle of success I buy into is that try to be good across the board.
Right.
Try to be good across the board.
Mediocrity just
It
irks them.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It's like saying, okay, I'm going to go, let's say I'm a Formula One race car driver, and my car is like the most unbelievably fine-tuned thing, but we're going to run this race with a flat tire. That ain't going to work.
Right.
I don't care how well that Formula One car is fine-tuned. If I got a flat, that one thing is going to bring me down. And so waking up earlier, huge for me. Being good across the board at the big things.
Why do you wake up earlier? What do you get done in that 3 to 4 hour time
Great question.
frame?
This is my philosophy when it comes to that. Before 9 a.m., I do everything that does not make me money. But they have to be done.
But it fills up your cup though, right?
But they have to be done. There's certain things that we all have in life that doesn't necessarily make us money, but they got to be, I call them admin things. Right. Like I go through my emails. I never check my emails during the day, but I know I got to check them. Yeah. Most of the things I check aren't going to make me money. Yeah. But if I don't check your email and I show up here and you're in that house and I'm showing up here because you changed it, that's on me. Right. So what I do before 9 a.m. is I call them my admin things. I work out before 9 a.m. It doesn't make me money, but I got to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So before 9 a.m., the things I invest my time into are non-monetary things.
Right. But do you think that you moving your body helps you monetarily?
That's exactly right. To a
certain extent, right?
That's exactly right. But I don't want to spend
that activity directly you can't tie it directly, but indirectly you can.
No question. That's why I call them admin things.
Gotcha.
They have to be done. They're all connected, but they got to be done. But I do I got a 7-month-old daughter. I spend a tremendous, and she wakes up like I do at 3 o'clock in the morning because that's what 7 months old do. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We hang out. We go for walks. We do a 45-minute walk. I build my relationship with her a lot more.
That's awesome.
But what I do after 9 a.m. is I do what I call my money making things. That's when I'm in the business mode. That's when I'm in the mode of doing things to drive everything forward. So before 9 a.m., admin. After 9 a.m., it's full blown. Oh, the other thing that I love about mornings, why I choose mornings, not only because I personally think sharper, but who's going to call me at 4 in the morning?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. The problems haven't woke up yet. They're still asleep.
No one's going to call me. Now, I'm blowing up everybody's phone. People wake up like, hey, Vekselman, I got 7 texts from you. What time did you get up? Yeah. So I get all of my things done like that. But that's what I do. Before 9 a.m., I call them my admin world. Yeah. After 9 a.m., it's full-blown go into driving my business forward, making money mode. So from 9 to 5, that's my world.
Yeah. Man, that's a magical hour. You know what I mean? Or 2 hours, when you're up at 4 to 6. My kids don't get up. And so I'm like, I really get to just be with myself and read and just get into a really cool headspace before
just the
commotion kind of starts and getting the kids off to school. But I do like how you take that time with your daughter, go on walks. I think that's really cool.
No doubt.
Something that I could implement. You know what I mean? That'd be really awesome.
So do you prioritize a certain bedtime in order to wake up at those times?
Early. I don't know if I have a certain bedtime, but
as early as possible, pretty much.
Usually, I'm in bed by 9.
Yeah.
9 or 10. Yeah. But again, we got a 7-month-old.
You're kind of working around that schedule.
I'm working around. Our nanny does not spend the nights with us. Yeah. So, but again, this is what I was talking about, being in the right lane of life. For me, and this is I know people are going to disagree with what I say. For me, sleep is not as important as it is for other people. You're going to get health people on here who are going to tell you wrong. It's the most important part of your life. But I also know it's that whole thing, you got to know your body. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for me, I can go to bed at 9, sleep till 12, get up with Olivia for an hour or two. My wife and I will alternate and, maybe get another couple hours of sleep and I'm good. Yeah. For me, I've learned 4 to 6 hours of sleep for me. That's perfect. And a lot of people argue that point, no, you need that 8 hours. It's the most important part of staying healthy, of biohacking and all this. Right. To me, just that's how my body works.
I used to get like 8-9 hours of sleep because I just love to sleep. But now that I get 6 or 7 hours every night, I actually have more energy. It's
do
almost
too.
like I overslept to where my body was in a more of a lethargic state throughout the day because I overslept rather than sleeping based upon my needs and then getting up and shaking it off through, body movement.
I'm
right?
the same way. You know the other word that also works? I fast every day for 20 hours.
The intermittent stuff.
Yeah, intermittent. So, and it's the
that.
same thing. I used to think eating less would make me more hungry. I used to think eating less would get me more lethargic, would get me, get me less. It's opposite. Once you fall into that mode, it's opposite. I'm sharper, I'm less hungry, I'm in better shape.
Yeah.
So sometimes certain things in life, doing less, you're actually getting more.
Right.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, like when I told somebody one time, I'm like, hey, I love intermittent fasting. My body just drops weight when I intermittent fast and kind of gets to the spot that I want, right? And they said, well, that sounds like it would be hard. I'm like, well, anything that's going to create a positive change is going to be hard for just a minute.
That's right.
But then it ends up getting easier.
Yep.
You have to go through, because it's just unfamiliar to your body. It's not that it's really hard. It's just it's unfamiliar. Go through what's unfamiliar for those first week or two where your stomach's grumbling like, hey, where's my breakfast? And then eventually your body acclimates, recalibrates, and then starts performing at more of an
100%.
optimal level, right?
Yeah.
And so what are you most excited about right now in terms of real estate? Because I know when we say real estate, that's kind of a broad brush, right? Because there's so many different ways to do real estate in terms of whether you're buying and flipping or buying and holding and renting or Airbnb space. There's so many different facets of this industry. Do you play in mainly one lane? Do you play in all of the lanes? Like, what's the most exciting thing for you and what you guys are doing right now?
Sure. Well, that could lead me to another principle of success that I live by, and this might be also this next principle. Hopefully, your listeners will take to heart, but it also comes from me being not very smart. I believe one of the big mistakes, especially new entrepreneurs make, is they go wide. Meaning they have too many things spinning. It's like, I went to this seminar, I went to this, I read this book and all this. And before you know, you got 30 things spinning. And then, as we know, most of those things don't work and a lot of disappointment. My lane of life of success has always been one or two things, max. One or two things, but absolutely dominate those.
Right.
So when it comes to real estate, when I got started 20-some years ago, the very first deal I did was a fix and flip. Lost money, obviously. It was a disaster.
Ended up in the car.
But guess what? 22 years later, I'm still doing the same thing. It's single-family houses. It's fix and flip, wholesale. We do some creative. So it's a very, very, very simple model.
Yeah.
But it's a very powerful model. But we do it better than anyone else in the country.
You just stated something. Simplicity, though, is power.
Well, it is.
You said it's a simple model, but it's powerful. But I think it's powerful because you simplified it.
Well,
right?
it's especially for guys like me who are not very smart or not very sharp. You got to do that. So when it comes to the model, it's what we do with our partners. It's fix and flip. It's wholesale. It's creative deals. We do the kind of strategies that make a lot of money up front. I'm not a long-term player in this business. I'm a short-term.
You don't like the trickle little.
Nope.
And
I like
have
the
it build
big
up
banks.
over.
I like and people say, well, the trickle is good because it's kind of comes in residually.
Consistent.
Well, but totally wrong.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you know how to set it up correctly, and we have set up correctly, our big pops are consistent, are predictable, are residual based. So we have the best of both worlds. What do I like the most about real estate right now? I love the economy the most. Now, that might sound weird because obviously for the listeners, like, we're in a bad economy.
Yeah.
Turn the TV on. It's, might as well jump off the building tomorrow.
Yep.
And we are in a bad economy right now. Let's face it. We're in a very inflationary times, even worse than most people are probably realizing, and most people have no idea what that means to them. We're in interest rates are going through the roof. But that creates opportunities.
Absolutely.
So what we are right now, this is the mantra I've been talking to people about right now. People say we're in a down economy. We're not. We're in an up economy, and it's how you look at it.
Yeah.
It's are you going to be in a downturn or are you going to be in an upturn? And so I choose to be in an upturn. So we're in an incredible times right now because all of those things. Here's what all those things create. Inflation, high interest rates, bad news, turn the TV on, it's the end of the world. That creates motivation in people. That creates motivation in people. Kind of like, and And here's the very interesting thing of what's taking place right now in real estate. This is why this is such an incredible time to be in real estate. Obviously, in real estate, I don't care what strategy we use, fix and flip, long-term strategy. It's all about finding the right opportunities. And the right opportunities come from motivated sellers, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's two types of motivated sellers right now. Ones that truly are being hit by the economy. I mean, we know it.
They want that money, that equity, that whatever's left because they just can't afford it or whatever.
Well, sure. Right? I mean, think about this. 4 of the largest companies in the world last month announced hiring freezes.
Right.
Elon Musk, who everybody knows, is letting go 15% of his middle managers right now. So this is a reality.
Yeah.
People are absolutely being hurt by what's taking place. So when people are being hurt, they have to liquidate.
Yep.
They right away think, okay, I got to get cash.
How do I protect myself?
How do I protect myself? My job's at stake, or my job is no longer around. So you can't sell your phone and protect yourself. So
Right.
you get $100. What does that do? So people get rid of their large assets. What's the largest asset people have? Usually second homes, rentals, maybe sometimes even their primary properties.
Yep.
So there's a lot of people, a lot of motivation right there.
Yeah.
We help people like that as investors.
Yeah.
But here's the other set of people that have now come into the motivated world that have not been there before. People that think they're in trouble, but they're not in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. So this whole facade
They're overplaying their hand of fear.
Yes, because all you got to do is turn the TV on, go to the internet, go to any news website.
The world is coming to an end. Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of these people who are really not in trouble, they would be fine. They're overplaying their hand. They think they're protecting themselves. They think they will be in trouble. They're trying to anticipate what may or may not happen. And so they get into the motivation side. So right now we are literally seeing more opportunities than we've seen as long as I've been in this business.
Yeah.
So on this side, it is fantastic. On this side, which means, because remember, we got to get rid of this stuff.
Yep.
It is a little bit tougher. Let's
yeah.
face it. But because there's such huge motivation and there's still a lot of cash in the game, so you got still a lot of money in the game that wants deals. You got a lot of motivation of people that want to get rid of deals. We as investors are in the middle. So
well, I see people talking
time.
about, hey, houses are staying on the market just a little bit longer. And I said this at the office just the other day to our other partner, Jeremy. And I said, well, yeah, but like, that doesn't mean it's bad automatically because it was flying off the shelf. Like houses were going within hours of hitting. So now if it takes like 2 weeks or a month or whatever, like people are panicking. That's still considered a good turnaround time to be able to put money into something and get money back out when you put it up for sale, right?
It's funny you say that. I'm reliving a deja vu of something I had a couple days ago. A couple days ago, I was talking to one of my partners from California, Seth. He and I have actually done about 150 deals. Wow. He's a kid. He's in his 20s. I met him about 3 or 4 years ago. He and I started partnering on deals.
Yeah.
He just bought himself a private plane.
Awesome.
I mean, just lives an incredible lifestyle. But it's amazing you said it. He said exactly that. He's like, Pete, I just realized I've never been in a bad real estate economy. And he said, we're just so spoiled. Things, we put them in the market and within 24 hours they sell.
Now we think it's bad because it
now
didn't
it's just
sell in
normal.
24 hours.
Now he's like, Pete, it's just the norm.
Yeah.
Things sit for a couple months. That's just the normal real estate.
Welcome to the game that we just got out of a peak. That was fun for a minute.
There's no question.
Let's play the game that's always been the game. Right?
There's no question.
Yeah.
That is exactly what's
Well,
taking
amazing
place.
perspective. I mean, recessions are really created in our mind, right?
That's
It's
exactly
like we're
what
either
it is.
believing what we're seeing on the screens
Yeah.
and we're believing what everybody's telling us, and we're like, no, man, like I don't mind doing deals and waiting a couple months or flipping them really fast and creating this whole ecosystem that I continue to thrive in.
Environments,
Because it's all mental.
Environments and circumstances shouldn't dictate how your life turns out. You dictate how your life turns out based upon your actions and what you do and what your habits are. It's not what somebody else places upon you, you don't have to accept. Right? And so
question.
create your own economy by being an individual that doesn't have scarcity and hold on to their money.
Yeah.
You hold on to your money, it can't flow back. You have to give in order to get. That's just the way that success works, right?
No question.
And so fear, what happens, we hold on to the money, and it's almost like a designed recession because if they say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. What happens? People hold on to their money because they say it's going to happen. So by default, it's a self-fulfilled prophecy. So that it starts to
No
happening
question.
because people hold on to the money. But check this out. Here's how I'm looking at it after we've kind of had this conversation. It's like, cool, let's say the house was a $500,000, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, whatever, right? The numbers are the numbers are the numbers. What if that house is now just $400,000 that you get on wholesale that you can sell it for, $450 rather than $550, right? Like, it doesn't matter what the house are there margins baked in or not? No matter where you're at in the scale of an economy, you could be at the bottom of an economy and that same house is $150,000. You might have got it for $120 now, but you can still sell it for $150.
Exactly
it does
right.
not matter what the environment looks like. There's always a deal to be had, and there's always margins as long as you find the right deal, right?
That's exactly right. It's what I call what you just described as adjustment. But this is a very important point that to go back to your previous question about what's taking place and how am I interpreting. We talked about the incredible motivated sellers now, blah, blah, blah. You're right, margins have to be adjusted. But you know what else is happening right now, to your point? On this side, a lot of investors are scared. So there's a lot less competition now.
Right.
Wow.
I heard
They're waiting to see.
Well, they're just scared. They're getting out. They're getting out. It's interesting. Obviously I'm a real estate investor. I'm not a realtor, but we've owned a number of real estate teams.
Right.
Just like you guys are not accountants, but you're an accounting business. Yeah. I'm not a licensed agent, but we know how to run real estate teams. And a couple years back, we went to Keller Williams convention in Austin, Texas, and Gary Keller from Keller Williams was talking, and he said something right to that point. He said, do you know, he actually put a chart up for Keller Williams when their agents are making the most money, and he tied it into the economy. Here's his point, exactly what he just said. All the wealth through Keller Williams and their agents have always come in bad economies. Have always come during bad times.
Yeah.
Why does that happen? A couple reasons. One, competition gets out. There's actually less competition during hard times. Number two, the right agents who stick in make adjustments. And when you can adjust for fluctuations, whether it's an up fluctuation, a down fluctuation, and you have less competition, guess what? You're going to make more money.
Right.
So right now is the time. This is the time. This is the opportunity time. Is it scary? Of course.
Right.
I'd be sitting here
course.
lying to you to say when I'm spending
Don't
half a
have
million.
fear. You can't say don't have fear. It's act regardless.
Listen, when I'm sitting on more inventory than I have in a long time, of course it's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But guess what? This is why I know I'm doing the right thing, because my competition is not. I was just talking to a hedge fund that I do a lot of business with, and they're being hit too. And the guy at the hedge fund who runs it said, Pete, we are doing less business now, and they're a hedge fund that provides capital for investors. He said, we're doing less business now than we have in years. Same principle. Why? Because investors are scared.
Yeah.
And then he followed up by saying, if I was on their side right now, I'm on the money, he's on the money side, but he said, if I was on the ground side, this is the time I'd be doing this thing.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what's happening. People are scared, and you're either going to work through being scared and kill it, or you're going to be scared and you're going to retract.
Right.
Well,
the thing is everybody's getting dealt the exact same hand, right? And so it's up to you with how you play the cards, right?
Yep.
And so you could fold them and say, I'm backing away from the table, but there's still plenty of money to be had or made at the table. Again, you're always just betting on you. You're not betting on the industry or this or that. You're like, okay, with me and what I know and what I do, I know that I figure things out. If I put me in that equation, in that situation, that circumstance, that environment, good, bad, ugly, whatever, I already know that I'm going to bet on me and that I'll come out on top because that's just, I grew up poor, right? Like I fought my way up through the grind, right? And I'm not scared of doing that again. It doesn't matter the circumstance. It matters your actions in the circumstance or in the environment. That's what determines whether that environment is truly going to damn you or whether ultimately you're going to climb to some sort of success from it. Right?
No question about it.
First time I ever did a real estate deal, I was really young. I was in sales. I wasn't even a business owner yet. And it went really good, right? And we were in great times. It was like 2005, maybe beginning of 2006. And then I did a couple more deals and it was exciting. And then I had become a business owner That's actually how I started my business, was getting a little capital from these real estate deals. But I was never a full-time real estate investor, right? But I was always attracted to it. I always liked the idea of owning real estate. And then some deals I was stuck in. One of them I was trying to flip. A couple of them I was holding long-term. 2008, everything freaking crumbles. And I was like, oh my gosh, like selling, we had one that we just had let go. That one wasn't on my credit. It was on a partner's credit. Another one was on my credit. But it was just like this horrible feeling, right? So I stayed out of real estate like in 2015 and 16, and you see things coming back up. Like I knew I should be getting back in the game, but I was like, I'm just going to stick to what I know. And so I guess my question is, a lot of guys that are part of your alliance that are in partner driven, are they like all in full-time real estate people, or are some of them like business owners or people that have a craft they're experts in,
Sure.
but they're just doing this on the side and partnering with you on deals, because that's where I was at. I was like, well, I'm going to stay in my lane. I bet on myself and what I'm good at, what I know. But like, even though I knew like I need to be in real estate, I'm attracted to it. I want to build wealth in that and diversify into that. Like I was scared to get back in 2015, 16, 17 in those years, right? Now I have real estate deals and I'm like, write it out.
Well, the reality is most people are not in a position who want to get in real estate. They could just stop doing everything.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Real estate takes a moment, whether you do it by yourself or whether you do it with someone like me who's going to partner with you.
Yeah.
So I would say probably about 95% of people that start with us start on a part-time basis.
Yeah.
But the reason they get into real estate, a lot of them, probably, I know 100% majority of them, the reason they get into real estate is ultimately they do want to work themselves out. So, but the great thing about working with us and we become your partners, you pick up leverage right away.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about all the things. You don't have to worry about back office. You don't have to worry about inspections.
Worry about one thing, find the deals.
Yeah, you just got to worry about, that's right. And by the way, we get involved there, remember, because we're generating leads. So usually with us, when people get started with us, probably the second or third most common question, how much time does it take? Usually our beginning partners in the initial stages, somewhere between 3 to 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have 3 to 5 hours a week, then you don't want something bad enough, right? You don't want something
you
bad
can
enough.
Netflix and chill then, if that's what you want to do. I hope that's paying your bills. And
that's right. But that's because we do so much for our partners.
Yeah.
We do the marketing for them. We provide the money. We handle, we help with the construction, with the back office. So they truly don't have to put insane hours in that a lot of people do have to put in on their side hustle. If you want your side hustle to ultimately be your full-time hustle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So with us, it's a couple hours a week.
I assume that your trainings and even your marketing is trying to target people before they go and list their home and try and find off-market deals, right? Like, is that where a lot of the margin is that art of finding those deals before they, get to that point of like, okay, I'm hiring an agent.
Before everybody knows about the deal.
Right.
Yeah.
When we started talking today, I said what the problem with the real estate and why there's such an abysmal success rate. And I talked about how you have to piecemeal things together.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things you have to piecemeal together is marketing, right? So now I'm a brand new dude. I'm in real estate, and I'm thinking, okay, I got to find a property. So what do most people think? Well, let me just call my local
Zillow or a real estate agent or something.
That's exactly
like
right.
that. Yeah.
So here's what most people do not understand about real estate. Not only does real estate itself fluctuate, go up and down, but the pieces of real estate inside change.
Yeah.
For instance, I've been at this thing for 22 years.
Yeah.
Do you know that I've bought hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of properties off Zillow, from real estate agents, off the MLS? Do you also know I haven't bought a property off Zillow, off MLS, from a real estate agent in 6 years? Yeah. So this is another reason why people fail in this business. They don't realize all these pieces have to fit together, but you also have to find the right part of that piece.
Yeah.
So within this business, everything changes. Marketing fluctuates constantly. In today's world, it is all about that.
Yeah.
Today's world, the only marketing that works is when you go directly to owners.
Yeah.
By time, and we can have a 3-hour discussion about it, but the biggest reason why the Zillows don't work, the Craigslist don't work,
if you go where everybody else goes.
Well, yes, in essence, you're competing against two things. Number one, you're competing against technology. Anytime something hits the market, There's bots out there. There's programs out there. They see it.
I
They see
think
it.
about the software.
Well, yeah,
are like, boop.
they'll make it. If it's got even a remote possibility, they'll get that thing
The
tied
filters.
up.
Hey, I want any 3-bedroom, 2-bath, listed.
You
boom,
can't compete against
notification.
technology.
Yeah.
Number two, you can't compete against hedge funds.
Yeah.
A hedge fund is
They'll
already
overpay.
they overpay, but because to them they just need to buy. They don't need to buy it.
They got to get rid of money. Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
You can't compete against technology. You can't compete against the guy that's willing to pay full price as an investor. And in today's world, all of those things, the Zillows, the MLSs, they're very powerful, meaning they forget the technology, forget about the person that's willing to overpay. They expose it to millions of people like that. Yeah. And when you're competing against somebody, so by the time you look at it as a brand new investor and that realtor puts you in a car and says, hey, I got this incredible deal, just ask them, how long has it been sitting there? Oh, it's been sitting there for 3 weeks. Oh my God. 3 weeks on the market in real estate today.
On an incredible deal.
Everyone's seen it. Everyone's passed it. And we're looking for the newbie. The guy doesn't know anything. Yeah. So the only marketing that works in today's market is if you're looking to find real deals, is you have to know how to go directly to owners. Yeah, it's before they want to sell. So it's and that's where our whole marketing
one step
platform,
above, right?
Our whole marketing platform, it is all about going directly to sellers.
Yeah, good.
Only thing that works.
Yeah,
only thing that works. We get all of our deals. Probably the last 1,000 houses I bought have all come directly from owners. Weren't listed. That's right. Yeah. There were people that were beginning to be in some kind of a motivation stage. Yeah. They got hit with a lawsuit. They got hit with a divorce or something like that.
There was maybe it was Cody Sperber or something that said like a statistic. He goes, in every neighborhood, 15% are ready to sell, whether they have a sign on their yard or not, or whatever it was, right? Or 15% of a neighborhood is going through some sort of crisis, whether it's a divorce, whether it's financial, whether it's this or whatever, and you knock on the door and there's an opportunity right in front of them to touch cash. Some people, because of that situation, they're like, let's do it. Yeah. Like, let's move forward because of this divorce or because of this or whatever. Right. You're catching people at the right time when they have the thought. They just haven't executed on the action because it's a pain in the ass to call an agent, come look at my house, It's the least path of resistance for them if somebody's standing right in front of them and saying, I want your house. If you've even had the thought, you're like, well, what will you give me for it?
And that right there is real estate marketing right now. That is all, so the key is to set up a marketing plan and a marketing strategy that does exactly that.
So anybody that's saying that you have to have money in real estate, all that, that's just another bullshit excuse for them not to take action and actually do something for them to enter into this industry or into the market. They're just not willing to do the work, really, because you can go around neighborhood to neighborhood if you really wanted to and grind your way through a deal or two to start putting money in your pockets.
The interesting thing I always say about that specific topic is this. There's a lot of things like that I could not have been successful in, like lack of knowledge. Like I could have never been a professional basketball player. I don't care how often I practice, I could never be a professional basketball player. None of us
look
probably
like
could.
You could cross somebody over, maybe.
I could not, and I couldn't be a rocket scientist. I wasn't smart enough. The good thing about this is the one thing I always come back to. The good thing about real estate investing, it's got an even playing field for everybody. Yeah. There's no tactic of the real estate industry that everybody couldn't do. Yeah. Nothing. Nobody could not do what you just said. Exactly. There's not a person out there. So it all comes down to how bad do you want it?
Yeah. And secondly, on the money side of thing, here's the deal. There's plenty of people out there with lots and lots of money that still want to play in the game, just like you, right? That's why you partner up with people, right? And so these individuals, Peter doesn't want to be in every single neighborhood knocking on every single door saying, do you want to sell your house? He's giving people an opportunity to create a life for themselves by them doing that. And because of his hard work, he has access to the capital. It's a perfect marriage, right?
Exactly.
And there's plenty of individuals that have access to money that don't want to do the boots on the ground thing and knock on the doors. But guess what? If that's where you're at, that's where you have to start. Eventually, maybe in 20 years, you could be a Peter, right? But there's a process that you have to go through to be a Peter, right? Peter isn't the Peter today that he was 20 years ago. He's developed into this individual, and there's somebody listening that in 20 years, they could have what you have.
Well, they could do it in 5 years. They can do 10 years because Peter's already paved the way. And really the only shortcut in life in business is alignment, like we talked about earlier on.
That's
100%.
collapsing time
100%.
through other people's experiences or knowledge. That's why we've invested into masterminds or coaches all these years, right? Probably $500,000 deep at this point. But because of that, I would, credit a lot of our success because of that alignment, because of that proximity,
100%,
and so I think people discount that a little too much. I mean, you're going to speak at an event and there's literally probably still people listening that roll their eyes at events or seminars or whatever it is. And I think you said you went to a seminar after the mobile home thing, or whatever, right? But that's what I'm saying, like, a lot of successful people, there's commonalities. They've invested into information and trying to be in certain rooms. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to take that step unless there's some sort of guarantee on the other end, right? Like, I don't want to pay $2,000 for a ticket because what if I don't get the information that I need, right? These what ifs are keeping them out of the game rather than just taking that step with faith and investing into themselves.
You got it. Isn't it sad? And I'm sure you guys see it all the time in your business. How many people put a timeline on success? Like, when was the last time somebody put a timeline on being broke? No. You talk to a guy in his 40s. Obviously not happy. Obviously wants to level up. Obviously not making enough money. But he will okay, I'm going to give him all my effort for 3 months. And if it doesn't work, it's like, dude, if you've invested 40 years into being broke, and that's cool. No timeline there. It's an indefinite all-in, 80 hours a week effort. People make two
or lack thereof.
Well, but here, people make two mistakes. Why they don't become successful. Number one, they put a timeline on it. I'm good. If it doesn't happen by such, and the second, which is what you were talking about, which is even a worse one, they put success into a box. They what if it. Yes, I'll go to this
if you could promise me that this will happen. Are there any people want guarantees. You're the individual that determines whether it's guaranteed success or not based upon,
no question.
Again, your actions.
You can't put a timeline on success, and you can't put success into a box. It's however long it takes, whatever I got to do.
The process is the process is the process. Either you're committed to the actual result and the outcome, or you're not. The process is going to be the process for you. If you're committed to the end result, you're going to jump through 10 hurdles, 100 hurdles, 1,000 hurdles. It doesn't matter what's in your way. The individual that wants it bad enough, they have one thing in mind, and it's, I'm going there and I'm going to get there. Out of the way, out of the way, out of the way. You'll always find solutions to problems if you want it bad enough.
No question. No question about it.
Dude, it was absolutely incredible to have you on the show today. You were just, fun to have a conversation with.
Thank you.
Based upon your experiences. You keep telling people that you're not that smart, but just sitting speaking.
I'm not.
Speaking to you, it seems otherwise. So
thank you.
How do people connect with you? How do they find out more about maybe some of the services and the programs and some of the information, coaching, mentoring that you may offer? Whether it's some Facebook groups that they can just kind of dip their toes in, or maybe you've got all the way up to one-on-one coach. I don't know.
Well, the big thing is partnering. For people that want to level up in life, for people that want to have the ultimate shortcuts to success when it comes to real estate investing, I'm interested in talking to them because that's what I do. Obviously, we partner with hundreds and hundreds of people in hundreds of markets across the United States. We help them. We facilitate deals for them. So the best way to do that, I'm sure there's a link that you guys have for them just to hit the link. And set up a call.
We'll put the link in just the show notes.
Okay.
Of the podcast so that they know where to find you on Instagram. Whatever links that they could be directed to find more information.
Perfect. If they want to, partner driven. That's the name of our company. They can go straight there.
Is it partnerdriven.com?
Yeah, partnerdriven.com. Or another great way to connect with me is just through social media.
Yeah. Right.
Like for instance, they can go to instagram.com/ my name, Peter Vekselman.
Okay.
There they could see how I operate, what I do. All they got to do is just hit the link in my bio, set up a call with myself, my team. We'll see if we're a good fit. And if we're a good fit, let's go knock it out.
It's
go do some deals.
VEKSELMAN, right?
That's right.
Where's that name from?
I was told, I don't know, but I was told
He
it
hasn't
originated.
verified,
Yeah, I haven't verified, but I was told it originated somewhere in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where
cool.
I could do that. But yeah, through Instagram, they could take a look at what I do, check me out, hit the link
You
in my
got
bio
YouTube
there.
or anything like that?
Yeah, I got
Couple
YouTube, all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just go to Google, do a quick Google search,
right.
poke around, find him.
that's exactly right.
He's obviously accessible. Why? Because he wants to do deals, right?
Yep.
So you can find him in multiple areas.
Yep.
So that he's easy to find, he's easy to do deals with
Yep.
if you're the right person, right?
Absolutely.
So, dude, you've been an absolute joy to speak with
Thank
today. Guys, make sure you go check out Peter. He's one of those bright minds, and he's in an industry that there are some takers in that. In any industry, there's good and there's bad. There's good police, there's bad police. There's great accountants, there's bad accountants. There's great real estate guys, there's bad real estate guys. But an individual that walks the walk and puts the money where his mouth is, you just know that you're operating at a whole different level. So this is an individual that we definitely endorse in anything real estate. If that's something that you're interested in or something that you've ever thought about, at least poke around it, at least play with it, see if it's for you, so that you don't end up in the back seat of a car. Peter will make sure that you have a little bit more of a opportunity of success than what his first
Easier and difficult ways of doing things.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, make sure that you share the show with somebody that you love and that you care about. That's really what it's about. We talked about alignment. We talked about proximity. And when you're hanging out with the people you hang out with, you want them absorbing the same information you absorb so that they're leveling up as well and you're not surpassing your group and they're actually anchoring you down more so than anything. And so rate, review the show, do all that fun stuff. Until next week, guys, keep kicking ass. Take care.